Debbie came to me one day and just said she was concerned with all these sudden deaths, which was Dr. Shipman was signing the forms for. And I sort of said there's nothing to worry about, it's just that he's old patients.
Harold Shipman was not the kind of man anyone in Hyde, a quiet town in Greater Manchester.
When I approached Mr. Edgerton after Kathleen Grundy's death, and I told him that I'd compiled a list of my customers who died in similar circumstances to Kathleen, going back 6 years, he was shocked.
Would suspect of evil. To his patients, he was simply Dr. Shipman, calm, polite, and always ready with advice. He built a reputation as a dependable family doctor, trusted by the elderly and respected by local families. In a town where everyone seemed to know one another, he blended in as part of the community. Patients felt safe in his care, and many saw him not just as a doctor but as a friend. He would visit homes, check on those who were sick, and give reassurance when families worried about their loved ones. His gentle manner made people believe he was deeply concerned for their health. Behind the walls of his practice, however, Harold Shipman was hiding a darkness no one could see. The man who seemed to bring comfort was quietly planning something terrible. For years, his position of trust shielded him from suspicion. While neighbors exchanged friendly waves with him on the street, no one imagined that the same doctor they depended on could one day be known as Britain's worst serial killer. The story of Dr. Death began not with horror, but with trust that would cost many lives. Hidden dark secret behind Harold Shipman's calm smile and professional manner lay a side of his life that most people never saw. From a young age, Shipman had been fascinated with medicine, but not always in the way others were. His mother's death from cancer left a lasting mark on him. As a boy, he watched doctors give her morphine to ease her pain, and he saw how the drug slowly took her away. This memory would later shape his own twisted path. After qualifying as a doctor, Shipman began to secretly misuse drugs. He became addicted to painkillers like pethidine, even writing false prescriptions to get them. His career was nearly ruined when he was caught, but after treatment and a warning, he was allowed to continue practicing medicine. To the outside world, it looked like he had learned his lesson and moved on. In truth, the darkness inside him never went away. He had learned how to hide his habits, how to appear normal while keeping secrets locked away. Patients trusted him because of his calm image, but behind that mask was a man who already knew how to manipulate systems and people to get what he wanted. Shipman's double life was slowly taking shape, the caring doctor on one side, and a dangerous manipulator on the other. It was this hidden dark secret that would eventually fuel the crimes that shocked Britain. Patients start dying at first, no one noticed the pattern. Harold Shipman's patients were often elderly, and in a small town like Hyde, deaths among older people did not seem unusual. Families believed their loved ones had passed peacefully under the care of a trusted doctor. Shipman would often be the one present at the time of death, calmly explaining that the patient had simply slipped away. He would comfort grieving relatives, sign the death certificates, and even advise against autopsies, saying they were not necessary. His words carried weight, and families rarely questioned him. But behind this calm explanation, Shipman was quietly controlling life and death. Many of his patients died suddenly and without warning, often after a home visit. To neighbors, it looked like bad luck, a natural end to long lives. In truth, Shipman was injecting them with lethal doses of morphine, the same drug he had once abused himself. The deaths began to add up, but because they were spread out over time and involved mostly the elderly, no one thought to suspect foul play. Families raised doubts as the years passed. Some families began to notice details that did not sit right. Their loved ones had seemed healthy, even cheerful, just hours before suddenly dying under Harold Shipman's care. Some deaths felt too quick, too unexpected, and always seemed to happen when the doctor was alone with the patient. Relatives recalled how Shipman discouraged questions, insisting everything was natural and peaceful. He often pressured them to skip post-mortems, giving the impression that he was saving them from unnecessary pain. Still, whispers of doubt began to spread in Hyde. A few families wondered how so many of Shipman's patients could die in the same way, sitting upright in a chair or lying neatly in bed, as though staged. Some voiced concerns, but their words carried little weight against the authority of a respected doctor. Local gossip circled, but no formal action was taken. Many believed they were imagining patterns born from grief. Police missed the truth when concerns about Harold Shipman finally reached the authorities. The first investigation in the late 1990s was shockingly weak. A local undertaker and a few families had noticed that too many of his patients were dying in similar ways. But when police looked into it, they failed to connect the dots. They checked only a small number of cases and quickly closed the file, declaring there was no evidence of wrongdoing. For Shipman, it was the perfect outcome. Proof that he could keep killing without fear of being caught. The failure was partly due to the image he had built for himself. He was a respected doctor, well-dressed, polite, and seemingly dedicated to his patients. Police struggled to believe that such a trusted figure could be capable of murder. Medical knowledge also worked in his favor. By signing death certificates himself and discouraging autopsies, he left little physical evidence. Every decision he made seemed to blend naturally into his role as a doctor. For the families who had raised questions, the dismissal was crushing. Their doubts were brushed aside, and Shipman returned to work as if nothing had happened. In reality, the missed chance to stop him allowed more patients to fall victim. The system that should have protected the vulnerable instead gave him cover. The truth was there, but no one was willing to see it. Not yet. One will changes all. The turning point in Harold Shipman's carefully hidden crimes came with the death of an elderly woman named Kathleen Grundy. She was healthy, active, and well-respected in Hyde, known for her charity work and strong spirit. Her sudden death in 1998 shocked her family, but Shipman, as usual, declared it natural and peaceful. However, something unusual followed her will. Instead of leaving her estate to her family, the documents stated that everything should go to Dr. Shipman. The will looked suspicious, filled with errors, and did not sound like Kathleen's usual style of writing. Her daughter, a lawyer, immediately raised the alarm. She knew her mother would never cut her family out of her inheritance. For the first time, there was not just a suspicion of strange deaths, but clear evidence that Shipman might be benefiting from one. Police reopened their investigation, this time with far greater attention. Kathleen's body was exhumed, and toxicology tests revealed lethal levels of morphine in her system. Trial shocks the nation. In 1999, Harold Shipman was put on trial, and the truth about Britain's death finally came into full view. The courtroom was filled with grieving families, journalists, and investigators who had worked tirelessly to uncover his crimes. Evidence revealed that Shipman had been murdering his patients for years, using lethal doses of morphine, and then covering his tracks with false medical records and forged death certificates. The forged will of Kathleen Grundy was the key piece that exposed his greed, but the investigation went far deeper. Case after case was presented, showing a chilling pattern of sudden deaths that followed Shipman wherever he worked. The calm, trusted doctor was unmasked as a manipulator who had betrayed the very people who depended on him most. The scale of his crimes horrified the nation. Estimates suggested he had killed over 200 patients, making him the worst serial killer in British history. Families wept in court as they listened to how their loved ones were taken away in what they thought were peaceful endings. The jury had little doubt. In January 2000, Shipman was found guilty of 15 murders and sentenced to life in prison. The trial not only destroyed his reputation, but also shook the foundation of trust between patients and doctors across the country. Britain would never look at family doctors the same way again. Legacy of fear. Even after Harold Shipman was locked away, the shadow of his crimes stretched across Britain. People began to question how one doctor could kill so many without being stopped. Families who once trusted their local GP now carried doubts whenever a loved one died suddenly. The government launched major inquiries, leading to strict changes in how deaths were recorded, how prescriptions were tracked, and how doctors were monitored. New rules required second opinions on death certificates and closer checks on controlled drugs. Shipman himself never showed remorse. In 2004, he died by suicide in his prison cell, leaving behind unanswered questions about his true motives and the exact number of victims. Estimates suggest he may have killed more than 250 patients, a figure so high that it still shocks the medical world. His crimes forced the country to confront the danger of blind trust and the flaws in its healthcare system. To this day, his name is linked not only with murder, but also with reform. Shipman's legacy is one of fear, pain, and betrayal, but also of change. The story of death remains a warning that even those who seem most trustworthy can hide the darkest secrets, and that vigilance is the only way to protect the vulnerable.